Welcome, everyone. Checking my settings. Welcome, everyone, to Facebook Live, our Compassion Center today with Alana Walczak from Calm. And I'm really, really pleased to have her on again. We were together a year ago, and it's now back to revisiting the landscape. Oh, so we're very, very pleased to be able to have this conversation. It says we haven't started yet, but I think we have. Have we not started on live?
If not, we can do it all over again.
Yeah. No, she'll let us know. I guess she's not on yet. Welcome, everyone. This is Gina Carvalho from the Santa Barbara Response Network, and welcome to our Facebook Live Compassion Center during Child Abuse Awareness Month. I'm really happy to have Alana Walczak with us from Calm. And as we were saying before, it's been a year. She was with us last year, and I'm really happy to have her again speaking with us about our families and what we can do during this unprecedented time. SBRN is available for services, support services, psychological first aid. Feel free to reach out to us if you need services. And also Calm is there, calmforkids.org, if you need any services. And we'll talk more about what we provide. But I wanted to just honor the fact that Alana's been working tirelessly for many years, not just with children, but with families and in the nonprofit world for over 20 years or more, I would think now, Alana, right?
25, 27, I think, sadly.
I think we were working together when you were what was then Rape Crisis, right?
Yes, yes.
And I know you worked for Pathpoint. I didn't know that you worked with Pathpoint. And then with Domestic Violence Solutions. And it was really interesting to know that you had so much experience with these issues that we're going to be talking about. I mean, years and years of experience in dealing with families, and I'm sure lack of services, resources, resistance to looking at some of these issues. So I think we're really fortunate to have you here and your expertise, and thank you again.
Thank you.
It is Child Abuse Awareness. Oh, thank you. And we do have Spanish interpretation, and this will be available to our Spanish-speaking community. And we'll have this now live in Spanish. We have an interpreter, but we also will record it and put it on our YouTube channel, so it will be available in English and Spanish. I wanted to just introduce the fact that it is Child Abuse Awareness Month, and that I know Calm's very involved, and I was really appreciative of your newsletter to see all the activities that you have. But maybe you can share with our audience some of the activities that are going on during Child Abuse Awareness Month.
Yeah, it's been, first of all, I just want to thank you again, Gina, for having me on in this month, because it's, we try to raise awareness about childhood trauma issues all year long, but obviously April being a month with a spotlight on child abuse prevention, it's really lovely to be here with you today. And as you say, we've been really busy this past year, but in April of this year, we've really tried to create a lot of different opportunities for conversation and dialogue. So we actually, Calm has a Facebook Live offering tomorrow. We've been doing them every Friday morning. We have one tomorrow at 10 a.m. and we're calling the series Inside Calm. We've had a few different topic areas, really trying to give community members an inside peek into some of the work we do at Calm, some of the therapeutic modalities we use, or just giving tips and tricks for parents and caregivers. And so tomorrow we have two of our clinical leadership members who are exquisite clinicians. They're going to be focusing on mindfulness for children and for teens, and really giving practical tools to promote mindfulness in children of all ages. So if there are any parents looking for specific techniques or practices to not only help yourself regulate stress, but how to teach that or how to engage that with your children, managing stress, being able to focus, all of these things have been challenged during the pandemic. And so we really want to focus on helping parents and caregivers have those tools. And I'm excited because I think a lot of folks in our community know us for our work with younger children, but we work across the age span. So tomorrow's session will also focus specifically on teens as well as younger children. And then next week, I'm really excited. Since the pandemic started, we've created what we call Calm Together community conversations. And those are sessions where we've had different panelists usually join me to talk about different topics related to childhood trauma. And this month, what we're doing next Tuesday, the 27th at 11 is I'm going to serve as a moderator rather than a panelist, and it will feature our 4 clinical leadership team members, really talking about the mental health impacts of this last year, what we've been seeing, what kinds of needs are out there in the community, trends we've encountered, but also what we're anticipating coming next. There's a lot of conversation about what folks are calling the 4th wave of the pandemic, really the mental health implications. We're obviously seeing those already. So we're going to spend an hour, again, next Tuesday at 11. You can register for this community conversation on our website. But I'm really honored to be able to convene a conversation with our clinical leadership for parents, caregivers, but also community members, service providers, just about the growing mental health needs. And then I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't plug one more thing. Next Thursday, we're doing a virtual fundraiser to benefit our work in northern Santa Barbara County, really to benefit our work in Santa Maria, really with a focus on home visitation and early intervention. And we're really excited about that. It's our first virtual event. We're going to try to keep it to under an hour because I know everyone is Zoom fatigued, but really raising awareness about the specific needs in the Santa Maria Valley and some of the specific ways we've been reaching families. So that too folks can register for that on our website. It's next Thursday at 6:30 if anyone wants to participate in a virtual fundraiser. But that's kind of rounding out our very busy month of offerings. So it's been good.
I'm happy with that. That's beautiful. And I really hope everyone that's listening does reach out and support your work. And so we know what the Santa Maria and the North County, those communities have been hit very hard with COVID, but also so many needs. And so the fact that you're out there and trying to support that community, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, it's been very exciting for us because obviously we've been in Santa Barbara for more than 50 years. Our 50th birthday was in 2020. So we feel like we kind of got robbed of an opportunity to celebrate. But we've been in Santa Maria now since 2008. And so really trying to build infrastructure, and that community has tremendous advocates and resources, but there aren't as many agencies providing support. Such a good community, also tons of need. And so we've been really honored to build bridges and build relationships in Santa Maria to support children and families there, in addition to other parts of the county. So
Mhm. Yeah, well, thank you for doing that. And you touched on what's happened in this year, and I just wanted to have you reflect on what you've seen and maybe just some feeling for what you've experienced at Calm that families, the needs that you've been seeing and how you've been responding. So I know you have been on the front lines. What's the
Yeah,
year been like?
it's been a year. I mean, I will just say, and I probably said this a year ago, I'm in awe of my colleagues. Just I feel so honored and fortunate to work with such a gifted team of, I think, superheroes. Really showing up for children and families this year. Obviously, we had to do it in different ways, and they were creative and figured it out. Like many organizations, we transitioned to telehealth services. We did that right away. Within 3 business days, we were meeting the needs of all of our clients through HIPAA compliant telehealth. We've been reopened to in-person services because mental health is an essential service. So we have been reopened since last summer. Most of our work is still outdoors. If we are meeting people in person, outdoors in the community, in backyards, sometimes in our own courtyard at Calm. We are starting to see more and more clients in the building now as we've moved into the orange tier. But it's been hard. I don't know that any of our clinicians became therapists to see clients over screens. Definitely not with 3 and 4 and 5-year-olds, but we have found ways to make it work and really are very proud that we've been a lifeline for so many families. I will say I can tell you some general trends. In the last year, we've seen 60% more clients than any year before the pandemic. So the ability of my staff to just really meet the need of the community is just profound. More than half of our clinicians are bilingual, bicultural. So really happy that this is being with interpretation into Spanish. So the Spanish speaking community will be able to engage this. That's a huge value of Calm, to be able to provide services to our full community in the language that they need. But we've just seen such an uptick in need. As you may guess, reports of child abuse have gone down to child welfare service, formal reports, or to law enforcement, because there really weren't eyes on children most of the last year. They weren't in preschool, they weren't in schools, they weren't even doing in-person visits with doctors. And it's very hard to assess for abuse in those settings. As things have reopened, we're starting to see the needs increase. But as you can imagine, the stressors of the pandemic, every home isn't safe for every child in the best of circumstances, but you add economic stressors and health stressors and close quarters, domestic violence incidences were going up. So even if children weren't being abused themselves, they may have been living in violent households. So the needs have just been exponentially growing. The severity of abuse was increasing. Unfortunately, a lot of families were being missed, and abuse was showing up in the emergency rooms. So quite severe situations of physical abuse or sexual abuse coming to the attention of authorities in that way. But I will also say there's been tremendous increase in depression and anxiety, re-triggering of post-traumatic stress. So we've all lived through a major trauma this year. So even individuals who may not have experienced physical or sexual abuse in their past, if they experienced emotional neglect, for example, or isolation as part of their upbringing, this year of tremendous isolation and disconnection may have been tremendously re-triggering for people that have experienced that type of emotional disconnect. And as I said, just with all of the stressors and the shelter in place, just so many increased tensions at home. So we have a lot more children living in violent situations. We saw an influx of sibling on sibling violence as well. So older siblings really reaching breaking points and taking it out on younger siblings. So more custody issues coming up. And as you can imagine, there's more separations and divorces happening, substance abuse happening. So there were a tremendous number, both over the last year, but continuing for some of the most vulnerable families in our community. So really proud that we've been able to be a continuous lifeline. In the beginning of the pandemic, and I may have shared this last year, we were providing more sessions to clients, but shorter in duration, especially as everyone was just figuring out how to navigate everything digital. We're seeing that kind of right size back to much more of a 50-minute or a 60-minute session. We definitely still have families. We have an entire department called the Whatever It Takes department, where we might be working with an individual child or family 6 to 8 hours a week. So we really just try to meet the needs of the families as they present to us. So it's been a very busy year.
Wow. 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 That so we are so lucky here in Santa Barbara um, to have calm, but also the sensitivity um, and the outreach and the consistency. Calm has been, and it's been part of our community fabric for, like you said, 50 years. But you've continued that support, and I'm so grateful to you, Elena, for being at the helm in this very, very difficult storm. And
Thank
we've
you.
all been in the storm, and but for you to be there for the children, for these families, you're actually expanding your services. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts for caring for our families in that way. I
Yeah, it's
wanted
it's a
to
great
take
honor. I just
one
wanted
thing
to
you said
say,
and
oh,
expand
go
on
ahead.
it.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to share that you were talking about. I often get asked by people, they're worried about children. They know that there's less reporting, but they're seeing things. They're worried about certain families or certain children, and they don't know what to do. There's always that hesitation to interfere in a family if you suspect abuse or you witness something. Um, and people are very hesitant. It's like, that's not my area. But yet they're not comfortable walking away either. I mean, they want to do something. So what would you say if somebody's concerned about a family or a child? What can
Yeah,
they
I think
do?
that's a great question. I think, something that we take really seriously at Calm is trying to destigmatize trauma. And really, and I think in our community, we've experienced community-based experiences that have given us all empathy. I mean, starting with, we've had mass violence in our community, we've had fires and debris flows, and now we're living through a global pandemic. And so if there's ever a moment for all of us to kind of see ourselves as part of a collective, it's now. I mean, we've all been through a really significant trauma. And so I think that gives folks empathy for those that are dealing with a different kind of trauma, childhood trauma, day in, day out. And thinking about, for a child who doesn't have agency or authority for themselves, if they're trapped in an environment with trauma, how scary and debilitating that can be. I think we can all recognize that. So I mention all of that just because first of all, we define health as both physical health and emotional health. There isn't a separation. But I think all too often there's stigma associated with mental health needs. And so an unwillingness or a fearfulness of admitting that a trauma might be occurring or someone might be needing help. So I think if you have a concern for a child or a parent, normalizing that we all go through tough times, normalizing that when we feel stressed, we may have desires or we might snap in ways that we don't want to, and normalizing that we've all been through a tremendous amount. And I think showing up with compassion, the compassion center, as you described, and empathy.
Yeah.
I know as a working mom, I have a tremendous amount of resources at my disposal, a lot of education, but this year has been very difficult navigating virtual school, managing my professional role, and also just taking care of myself as a human. And there have been times when I have not been the best parent over this past year. And so I think reaching out from a place of honesty with others, with other parents in particular. Of course, if there are some significant concerns going on for a family, when you really think there's some active abuse going on or active trauma, of course, folks can call child welfare services. They can also call CALM. You mentioned our website earlier. Our Santa Barbara phone number is 965-2376. Folks across the county, there's local numbers in all of the major areas. And we have an intake team staffed by bilingual clinicians who take those calls, and we'll get some information about what might be going on. We can't help a family unless we are directly connected to someone involved with the family. We can't just take it. We are not an investigative body like child welfare service.
Right.
But one of the trends we saw, you talked about our 50-year history. Something that was heartbreaking, but also profoundly beautiful to me was that a lot of our former families, former clients came back because they were making really great progress. But this year was so difficult again for all of us that they were re-triggered, but they knew within themselves that they needed help and they reached back out. So heartbreaking in the sense that it's a continuous ongoing, as trauma survivors, we have continued needs, but it was beautiful in the sense that the level of trust and connection with our organization, that these families felt safe to come back and to ask for help and recognize that we would walk alongside them without judgment and meet them where they were at. And I think that's what we all need to do for each other during this moment, is that this has been a long road. Things are getting brighter. There's more hope. Vaccines are coming, but there's still a lot of anxiety about what does this mean and is it safe? And this year changed us. We can't just show up again and act as if it didn't happen. So I think just being really real about what we've all lived through is really important in reaching out to other families.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a great answer, because I do think that piece of um we've survived a trauma and we're in a trauma, and reaching out and talking, not being afraid
Mm.
to just talk, be real, talk about it. I was interviewing an emergency room doctor yesterday and talking about helping other first responders, and have been talking to first responders for a while. And how do you reach out? It's the same thing. How do you reach out if you see a first responder struggling or a family member? And they said exactly what you said. It's like, talk to them, start with a conversation, especially if you know the family, right? Say, and he said what he says, I'm having a hard time. I'm really having a hard time. And how are you doing? How are you holding up? This has been really rough. And it's exactly what you said. I mean, you've struggled as a parent, and we've all struggled, and it's okay. I mean, in that sense, to own that, to own our struggle and our trauma, um, and
Yeah,
not
and to
condemning.
understand that some in our community and something that was difficult for me too is to acknowledge my struggle while holding on to the privilege that I have. Like, I have a safe home, I have a job that I love, my children, yes, this was a difficult year, but they're achieving academically. And yet, even though I have a lot of things in my positive bucket, it was okay for me to acknowledge, and I did continuously with colleagues, with staff, with friends and family when I wasn't doing okay, and sometimes you can't predict it, and none of us know all the things that anyone is carrying. So, we're in line at the grocery store. We have no idea what that person is carrying, what happened to them today, what type of relationship they're in. And so I think it's just, yeah, it's being real and honest, but also approaching everyone with empathy and care, because there's just a lot going on below the surface for every single one of us. And families that are more vulnerable than others have so many more stressors that if we're not walking in their shoes, we can't even imagine, quite honestly. So
Yeah.
trying to connect as humans, I think
Yeah.
right now is the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. As humans, we're all struggling. We're all trying to make our way. And just touching on what you as a parent, just to say a little bit about what you've learned and how you feel. And I know it's been a year of development for you and probably for your daughters. I know you have twin daughters that are growing rapidly in 1 year in
Yes.
pandemic.
Yes.
What have you learned, and what or just anything you want to share about what this year's been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, so as I said, it was really hard looking back, and also I would just say this year was a lot like parenthood in many ways. I thought just the days were long, the weeks were long, and then, oh my gosh, where did the year go? It went by so fast. So, and that's a lot like parenthood, of just the days are extraordinarily long, and then all of a sudden your children are 6, and then they're 10, and then they're 30, right? So my girls are almost 11, which is amazing to me. But I think we, a silver lining is having more time with them, and just really, even though it was so hard, I have so much more respect for teachers, so much more gratitude for everyone in the educational system. I will never take school drop off for granted ever again. But in this year of my girls are still only 2 days a week at school, so I still get to juggle a lot. But really just relishing in the time I have with them. But I also think just really reflecting on how important honesty is in all relationships. But my girls and I mean, we were around each other all the time. So really getting to see the ups and downs for each of us, and really being able to be honest about what we were feeling, what we were needing. I mean, the depth of our relationship over this last year has really improved, and I'm really grateful for that. Um, but I think one takeaway that I have is just everything is uncertain all the time. I think we fooled ourselves pre-pandemic, that we knew what to expect. And what we learned in this year is that nothing is guaranteed. Every day is what you make of it. And so invest in what matters. And I think as the world reopens, we are confronted with choices of how are we going to reacclimate, and what do we want to prioritize. And I want to prioritize connection with my kids. The tagline at Calm is protecting the most important relationship in the world, which is between a parent and a child, caregiver and a child. Because if you protect that relationship, if every child has at least one adult who's crazy about them, who loves them, who pours into them, the trajectory of their life is forever better. That solid, stable relationship is the most important way to build resilience for a child. You can support it with healthy sleep and healthy nutrition and exercise and good conversations and all of the things that build resilience. But that consistent relationship is most important. So as I think about the choices that are in front of all of us, really remembering who's important and what's important and investing there. So, and that will be a challenge because we're all going to be expected to think about all the things, but trying really hard to remember the lessons of this year, not just for myself as a parent, but also for my staff, for colleagues, just what's important to all of us, and trying to live from there.
Thank you for that. And I was reflecting on our interview a year ago, and I think we talked in that about caring for yourself, the self-care piece. And you were saying about showing up for your daughters came from taking care of yourself in some way that was really important. I think that's been one of the biggest lessons for me, is showing up because I'm honoring and caring for myself. So I remembered that from
Yeah,
a year ago.
and doing it in really authentic ways, because I have to say that I get really sick and tired, if I'm being honest, of like this self-care, bubble baths and chocolate. And no,
Yeah.
self-care is really inward focused work. What do I care about? What am I filling my life with? What am I saying yes to? What am I saying no to? Who am I surrounding myself with? It's not simple. It's not going to buy a new pair of shoes, or maybe it's buying a new pair of shoes. I don't know. But really true self-care
Yeah.
is
No.
figuring out what you want to invest in and building your life around it. And that we've got a lot on our plates going forward. Just because the world reopens and folks are vaccinating does not eliminate the trauma and the collective trauma we all carry forward. So that commitment to self-care is going to be more important than ever. And it's something we're taking really seriously at Calm, because our clinicians are afraid. They're holding the trauma of our community on top of all of the personal trauma they may have of kids at home and their own emotional well-being, and the toll of Zoom, like we're all struggling with everything being virtual. So we're really organizationally trying to dig deep and what does it mean to build wellness and self-care in a real way. It's lovely to give everybody a cup of coffee here and there, but you have to create a healthy staff culture. You have to create opportunities for reflection and self-focus. So thinking about that in a deeper way.
Yeah. And as a parent, exactly right, is carving even a little bit of time to yourself so you can even reflect on where you're at. As we go, teach and work, and so where do you find a 15 minutes or walk or breathing or looking at a tree like I'm looking at right now? Where am I? Like check in.
Yeah.
That kind of
I'm joining our Inside Calm tomorrow. Not so much just for, tips that I'll use for my children in terms of mindfulness, but how can I do that for myself? Because I think really, you can't wait. I do this too often. I'm guilty of my self time is like 10 o'clock at night, because finally I can slow down. And I think we have to find ways to build those moments into our day. So getting up from the computer, walking around the block, taking 10 seconds to breathe deeply or to stretch, or, you have to no one's going to do it for you. You have to integrate it in. So it's hard though. It's really hard.
It is. It's really hard. The world is pulling a lot at you, especially where you are, and you see so much need and so much to do and support. So there's all these things being pulled at us, and how do we prioritize that space? That's really a challenge. And sometimes we've been socially conditioned, and I grew up in a very Latino culture where you're always giving and responding
Right.
We never talked
Yes.
about,
Yes.
self-care, right? Just like,
Yes.
you just have to do it,
Yes.
girl. That's just
Yes.
life. And so now we're talking about it's like, what are you talking about? So you have to even learn, and it's not something in our culture, even some people's culture,
Well, and
especially
it
women,
again, and
addition.
it's not just bonbons on the couch. It's learning how to set boundaries. It's not helping everyone. It's knowing that if you help everyone, you'll be depleted tomorrow. So really being consciously aware of that. Um and I think
Yeah.
some of those skills are what we help, at Calm, we're helping parents set boundaries with their children, doing that in healthy ways so that they can replenish themselves, because children read the world through the eyes of their parents, all the way along. It changes developmentally, but especially younger children, if we are stressed or if we aren't well, that's that's the take on the world that a child sees. And so we have to really prioritize that. And I think a big part of how we help families is really helping them to build strong connections with their children. Some of that is learning how to connect, but some of it is learning how to set boundaries and learning how to discipline or set limits in healthy ways,
Mhm.
and really coaching parents through that. And we all have to learn it, because really the only way any of us learn how to parent is whatever parenting we received. So if that parenting wasn't particularly positive or helpful, I think a big part of what Calm is trying to do in April, but every month, is to really acknowledge that it's okay for anyone to ask for help, because we're all evolving and parenting is darn hard. So really helping and providing, and it's just continuous learning. Like no one's got a secret magic wand. It's just continuing to learn new skills and applying them to your family and your children and seeing what works. And then when you find what works, keep doing it. So
Yes, yes, yes. Well, Elena, thank you, Elena, for
oh,
your wisdom
thank
and
you all.
experience. And
You're
I'm
such an
mindful
important
of your
resource.
time. Oh, yeah, SBRN, I mean, and Calm, we've been partners here and supporting the trauma in our community for many years, and we're there for each other. And it's it's just a beautiful connection. Thank you. And as we end, I'm aware of time, and we've gone a little over, but it's always so nice to have you. If you have any closing remarks, and um, we'll
Um, yeah, I would
say good.
just say thank you. And if there's anyone who's watching this who does need help or wants resources, again, you said our website is Calm for Kids. It's calm, the number 4kids.org. In addition to general information about Calm services, we have an enormous array of resources and articles related to COVID, but also related to parenting. So there's just there's a wealth of information there. But if anyone is needing services or is worried about someone, to please call us or contact us, and we can provide resources and referrals and or provide services. And again, everything we offer is English and Spanish, primarily provided through bilingual and bicultural clinicians. So we're here as a resource, and we're really proud to have been able to support so many over such a difficult year. So thanks for the space to share again
Thank,
with all of you.
thank you. Thank you for your time, Elena, and the best of luck in all your activities. And I hope our viewers will be able to participate. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
if anyone needs services, CALM or SBRN, sbresponsenetwork.org. And we're there also English and Spanish. But I wanted to just thank Elena and thank you, CALM, for being here. And thanks everyone for tuning in. Have a wonderful evening and stay well. Bye-bye.